Broadcasting from the Blanchistan Centre. This is Phoenix FM.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
According to the Nerd Index, you should be upside down in a junior high toilet around the clock.
This is Time goes in, time goes out. Never miscommunication.
It's over 9,000!
My name is Frosty.
The balls are in there.
Don't face me, bro! It's a trap! I'm a firing believer! Time to Hey, Charlie, wake up! Oh, God, oh, man!
Hello and welcome to this festive edition of the Nerd to Know Basis Show. I am Cian and with me this week is Kev and Dara, who is back from his either world-spanning adventure or possibly haunting the British Museum. Dara, how are you doing?
Ahoy! It's funny because I was actually going to be in the British Museum today, but
Oh, there you go.
I decided against it. I decided to show up because it's been a while since I've been here. You guys have been holding down the fort miraculously and valiantly, and I've been, as you said, not. But here's the thing. So apparently, Moon Knight is off Disney Plus. Is that right, Kev?
No. This was me. No, it's 2 episodes are missing. I screenshotted this for in our kind of group chat. We're not going to spend a huge amount of time on this. But it basically, I flagged it with Kev because we did an episode a few months ago about how streaming represents media potentially going missing and all that. Isn't that right, Kev?
Yeah, I don't think I sincerely doubt this is a deletion because why?
No, it's I
actively delete this. This is a glitch.
I know why. I know why. They obviously are aware of the issue that we brought up several times, and maybe they're patching it. That's what I would do.
Disney is going to spend
doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
Disney's going to spend so much money to reshoot a 2-year-old show
for accuracy. That's what I would do. I mean, they had access to it, so
that if I'm being honest, I think only the 2 of you watched.
To be fair,
it's possible.
I wouldn't be surprised. The numbers were not good. They were really not good for that show.
Wait, how do you have numbers? I thought streaming doesn't release numbers.
It does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah, well, I will admit, as much as I like Moon Knight and I think he's perfect casting,
yes, I agree.
I'm currently going through all of the Disney Plus Marvels as movies to see how they hold up. And so far, most of Phase 4, unburdened from the expectation of it being a new Marvel thing, is actually much better than I remember, but Moon Knight is worse than I remember, I will admit.
Yeah, at the time, I think Katie said there's very little Moon Knight in this Moon Knight show.
That doesn't bother me. It's more that it can't decide if it's a horror thing or an adventure thing. Whereas say the Falcon and the Winter Soldier needs an edit, but otherwise it's pretty snappy and pacey and efficient.
Bits of it are. There is a lot of cringe in that though as well. To be fair.
But that's what I was enjoying, though. I was watching The Falcon, and I was going to save this for a bigger, wider episode on it. I'm going through these Disney Plus things, and I'm asking myself 2 questions. Should this be a movie? And if it's a movie, what do you cut? And in my head, I'm sort of going, okay, cut that, move that. And I'm enjoying it.
That's a good idea.
I know that's not just giving the show benefit for my own head exercise. But it's a fun one to do,
No, I think I think you are right though, because I can only think of 3 shows in that that Disney have made that actually benefit from being in a TV show format and couldn't have been cut down to at least a 3-hour movie, if not shorter.
Yeah, and that's going to affect when we talk about Skeleton Key near the end of the episode, the new Star Wars thing. But I would say I'd be interested to hear what your picks are, because the only ones I'd leave as TV shows from the Marvel stuff are Agatha, WandaVision, She-Hulk, and I suppose Loki maybe as well. That does a good enough job being it's an episode week to week. And obviously What If is pure that. But
Yeah,
the
no,
rest are like movies.
yeah, no, they're my picks too. I
They're
would,
exactly my three.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I would delete She-Hulk from existence, but
But it is
or
a TV show you
or
delete, not a movie you delete.
no, well, like even with that, I think that as a mini series would have been better. You know, 4 snappy episodes would have been way better than the elongated ones we got. And the same with Loki.
It's
If you
yeah,
had,
it's in a
if you,
weird sweet spot. I think if you're doing a comedy, like a half an hour comedy, it needs to be like a Brooklyn Nine-Nine, 15 to 20 episodes.
yeah,
But
but
like you say, it either needs to be shorter or longer. Like,
yes, exactly. And I think that's why that kind of like, don't get me wrong. I know Kev, you're a massive fan of She-Hulk, and look, I like her too.
hmm.
But I think that would have benefited short, snappy at the beginning, then bring her back after a movie and do a longer run then when people have a bit of time. It's like like the Deadpool thing.
Yeah.
Deadpool showed up and like absent made the heart grow fonder. So now that he's there, do you overuse him? Do you not? Like look, if Deadpool showed up and everything, everybody would be like, let's let's cut out here on Deadpool, you know? It would be too much. But I think yeah, as a mini series, I think that would have flown better. Definitely Wanda. That was the best use of the TV series until the very last episode. Agatha, I haven't seen, but I have heard really good things, so I'll watch it. And yeah, I think every other Marvel movie that's happened, or sorry, TV show that happened other than Loki, could have been a movie and probably was a movie at some point, but they
Yeah.
were like, okay, we're going to cut this down. But Loki, again, is an interesting one because I really liked the first season of Loki. It was like the best series of Doctor Who in a long time. But the second season could have been cut down. So that
Yeah,
could have been a movie.
Well,
I think you're absolutely on that. Yeah.
maybe we should save that for Skeleton Key because that is exactly the problem with it. It's much better than most of the recent Star Wars stuff, but that's what's holding it back. But I'm conscious of time, and there's going to be a lot of feelings around Craven time and War of
Oh, it's Craven time.
uh, but I believe, Kev, you had something festive you wanted to talk about in what is the last show that will be going out before Christmas.
Which it is the Saturday before Christmas right now, and I think there is still time to really, because by this point I think a lot of people at home probably watch their staple, their Christmas canon, or at least have like some of them reserved for Christmas Eve. Your Muppets Christmas Carol, your Die Hard, your Jingle All the Way. You know, your the homegrown staples. And I would like to do a service for you here from Nerd to Know Media and introduce a new staple into that canon in Hot Frosty. Now, some of you at home, some of you in the studio here, might be asking yourself, what is a Hot Frosty? Well, let me tell you. Hot Frosty is a Christmas movie about a very buff snowman who comes to life and falls in love
when you said
with
hot,
a human
I was
woman.
thinking like Olaf melting and Frozen. Like I didn't.
No,
It was more of a.
now, it is very funny that you mentioned that, because although this is he takes the form of a human man after a magical scarf is put onto him. He takes the form of a human man because the snowman he originated from is sculpted in the way of a beautiful human man, unless the Jack Frost style. But it's funny that you mentioned.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you mid-flow. Is this a movie or is this like a dream you had? What's going on?
This is straight cut direct to Netflix movie.
Okay, now I've got the tone of it. Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
But it's funny that you mentioned the Olaf melting thing, because although he is built in the form of a human man, he is still a snowman and is still sensitive to temperature. And I won't spoil the ending of Hot Frosty for you, but it does become a race against the clock to get him out of jail, lest he melt in his skin-colored snow.
Okay, I'm looking up images from it now. It looks like this is a real movie. When you said it, I was imagining some C-grade horror looking thing. This looks like it's got the same poster as like Last Christmas and The Christmas Prince and all that jazz. This is a real thing.
Yeah, I'm very leaning it. Like it actually is quite a fun movie. The thing is it has the vibe of exactly that you said. That Christmas Prince kind of like one step above a Hallmark movie. But the thing is that when you get into it a bit more, it's even a step above that, because it has a shockingly stacked cast.
I was just looking at that. Yeah, the actors are all really good. Like,
Yeah, it's Hot Frosty himself is Dustin Milligan from Schitt's Creek, and the woman he falls in love with is Lacey Chabert, who's Greta, what's her name from Gretchen Wiener from Mean Girls.
right. And I'm noticing a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine actors are in this too.
It's got Daryl from The Office and Charles from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Yeah, like that's it. Yeah. It has. That's it. It's pulled like a lot of just kind of like staple sitcom actors, and just kind of all of that actual talent comes in to actually be like a very fun movie. Like, take it on its face. This is like a cheesy holiday movie, but it's just that little bit better than it really has any right to be.
Okay, so did you enjoy this like ironically or sincerely?
It started ironic, but then genuinely became sincere. It did. You start a movie called Hot Frosty about the hot snowman that the human lady dates, and by the end of it, you're like, oh, this is actually, I'm enjoying this.
I'm looking at the poster, and the tagline on it is, "It took a snowman to melt her heart."
Yeah. In typical like kind of Hallmark style fashion, she is a thoroughly depressed woman with a dead ex-husband.
Well, that's at least a change to the formula.
Who died of cancer and is now being supplanted by a snowman.
Well, now it sounds sinister.
Hot Frosty.
Okay, Dara, do you have any stray thoughts on this rather attractive snowman wooing a widow?
So, I think a lot of people needed a paycheck, and that's what happened.
Well, regardless of the philosophical merits, how sincere it was behind the scene, does this film sound appealing to you?
Look, everyone has their Christmas takes, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that like everyone's one is kind of different, you know. Like for me, it's Elf. I really like Elf. I think that's awesome.
That's always our starting off Christmas one. Yeah,
I really like Gremlins. So, I mean, the thing of it is like we watch Gremlins during the week. That's a dark movie, man. That's a like. There's a straight up like suicide talk in it.
I think I've said this on the show before. I saw Gremlins in cinema, like at a repeat screening in like 2010 or something. And it was a real mix of people laughing at that scene and people genuinely uncomfortable.
It is, and I forgot about it, and I'm like, oh wow, okay. And then the dad like falling into the into the chimney, and we stuck there for days. So look, who am I to judge? If you like Hot Frosty, go for it. But for me, I think I'll give it a miss.
I think I'm confused. I think I constantly confuse the tone of Gremlins with the tone of Gremlins 2.
Gremlins 2 is way safer. Yeah, Gremlins 2 is
basically a parody of Gremlins 1.
It is, yeah. 100%.
Why there's nowhere to go in like a Gremlins 3 that doesn't exist.
Well, you can't really go anywhere. Like they literally jump through the cinema and Hulk Hogan shows up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I mean it, but yeah, like I think for Chris, it's interesting because like what is a Christmas movie is like an interesting talk, and for everybody it's somewhat different. Like some people say Die Hard is or whatever, and even still, like I mean that's not really a Christmas movie in and of itself. Batman Returns is a pretty good Christmas movie, but
I'd make the argument that Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
So would I, but it's not.
It's one of my staples.
Oh, it's mine too, but it's like it 100% isn't. You know what I mean? On what, depending on how you're looking at. So look, if your thing is a Hallmark movie about a undead, reanimated zombie hot snowman who tries to usurp a widow, absolutely go for it. But I don't think I'll be watching it. However, I don't know if you guys have seen that new Jack Black movie where he's
Dear Santa.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I've seen ads for it. I haven't actually sat down and watched it.
No.
I want to watch it, but I know it's going to be real bad. So I'm kind of like, Do I watch it now before Christmas, or do I watch it around Christmas and be angry at it? I
That
don't.
might be my Christmas thing. I might watch all of the like streaming Christmas stuff and just pick out the best and worst. Like there's a Bill Murray Christmas, a Sabrina Carpenter Christmas, and just see what
I've been
on earth.
meaning to watch that Sabrina Carpenter Christmas. That actually looks really good. I
Yeah.
caught it.
Hold
I
on,
caught a reel earlier where she has a song in it about, well, what do I buy my brother-in-law? Who is this man?
I mean, she's another one of those like Ariana Grande types whose like kind of like popularity goes beyond the popularity of their music, you know?
Listen, there is a Bill Murray Christmas, and it's called Scrooged, and it's really good, and everybody should watch it.
Yes, yes, that's true.
That is a great
Um,
movie.
Yeah.
That is also a movie that, if you watch as a kid, scars you for life. Like I saw it when I was like eight.
No, I saw it as like a 29-year-old and it still scars you. I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, but
Listen,
like
at this
they definitely
most
shouldn't have seen it
Christmas-
as a child.
Listen, most Christmas movies scar you. The Muppets Christmas Carol will scar you.
That's
That
true.
death puppet is awful.
Yeah, no, to be fair, although that is like the best adaptation of A Christmas Carol ever, so
I'd agree with that.
100%.
Yeah.
it really is.
100%.
Like I know it has the Muppets in it, but it's really good.
Yeah, but the Muppets are just there to get you watching. They play it
Exactly.
straight, like.
Yeah, they do play it straight, and that actually helps great.
My-
They actually
Which
did
is also
my
going to
favorite-
segue into Treasure Island, which is going to segue
Which-
into Skeleton Key. We're going to run out of time for Skeleton Key at
the
this rate.
Disney one is real good, to be fair, as well. The one with
Treasure Planet.
no, the Christmas Carol.
Oh,
Oh, the one with oh God, what's his name? Jim Carrey. Yeah.
No, with Mickey Mouse.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a good one as
oh,
well.
okay. I haven't seen that
Yeah.
one. I know that the Goofy's enemy is like the Christmas future ghost, but that's
Yes. Yeah.
whatever his name, that jerk. But I'll tell you what, I think we've put off Kraven time for long enough. So, in honor of this festive season, could you tell us about a big game hunter who's hunting for Spider-Man without hunting for Spider-Man, please?
So look, straight off the bat, this movie isn't as fun as Morbius.
But what
And-
could be?
Exactly, what could be? Well, the first half
Well,
of Morbius,
The
and then
que-
more.
No, we have an answer. We have an answer for that, and it's Madam Web.
Oh,
That's
absolutely, absolutely. So it's not as fun as the first half of Morbius, and it isn't as glorious as the cinematic experience of Madam Web, which again I saw 6 times, and we did a panel about it, and we did 3 shows.
I think you may have been the entirety of the box office for that film.
I hope I was, and it was well earned, because every time you watched it, there was new things you could find, and it was just.
You have probably seen it
Fine.
more than Dakota Johnson at this point.
I don't think she's even seen the
Sure.
movie.
Certainly she has.
Oh, she has.
No. Certainly you have seen it more than Dakota Johnson. You've seen
Oh,
it more
for sure.
than anyone in that involved in making that movie.
In the editing and anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, look, that movie still, it's like it's just
It's the
every
new
ti-
Catwoman, isn't it? Like,
No, Catwoman was objectively a bad movie.
but it's not a fun bad watch though.
No, Madam Web is just a puzzle box. Like every time you see it, you're like, what are they trying to do? Is this a
Oh,
choice?
okay.
And it's a fun watch. It's like The Room. I think in a couple of years, Madam Web will have that Room.
That's
aura,
true. Catwoman is like kind of CGI grossness.
Mess.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I get you.
It's
Like, yeah.
just a messy bad movie. So look, Craven.
we could just stop there, couldn't we? Craven.
Okay. It's not a bad movie, right? Straight out of bat, it's not a bad movie, right? It's not a good movie. It's just very, very okay. And the worst thing about that is it's that there's nothing really to say beyond that. There's no reason to watch it again. There's no reason to rush out and go see it. There's no reason to see it, right? And that's the problem. It's like, okay, look, it was a good movie. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it, but I'll never think about it again. I have to
I
say,
don't believe you.
no, I have to say, right, if they did pluck your man who plays Kraven out of it and put him in a Spider-Man movie, fantastic idea. The comedians in it, also comic accurate comedian, not comedian, chameleon, which
Oh, I do like the chameleon. Okay.
yeah, which was very, very cool. Again, pluck him out, put him in a Spider-Man movie. And if that happens, great. It's the most, I will say this, it's the most successful of these movies that isn't Venom. It like those characters work. The problem is it's fine. The Rhino was actually a unique take on it as well.
Oh, the
So
Rhino's in it too.
yeah, so look, there was a lot in it. There was a lot happening. It was a good, competent movie. You know what it felt like? It felt like Iron Man 3. And what I mean by that is, it's like, you know, the way Iron Man 3 is completely different than all the other ones, and it's more kind of like grounded, but then has those little flourishes. That's kind of like that's what Kraven was like. It was, you're watching it and you're like, okay, this is fine, and then they do something kind of wild, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. But there was no real reason for it to exist other than they had to make it. It was in the can for a year, and here you go. You know, and the worst part about it was a couple of people walked out, which I thought that was unfair. It was not that bad at all, but it was very slow. Like there was a good 30 minutes that could be cut out, and that it
You know,
made it very flabby. And that
mm,
is probably the most damning part of it. It's the
do you know,
one thing I could say. Whereas, like, yeah, the movie plodded along in the middle. Go on, Kev.
it's very funny just that, like, obviously this was supposed to come out last year, and that would
Yeah.
have been even more serendipitous timing.
Yes.
But I don't know, like, because I recently played the Spider-Man 2 PS5 game,
Mhm.
which is so funny that like this was a Kraven movie that was kind of in the whale for a while, because I think because that Spider-Man 2 game, the primary antagonist is Kraven.
Yeah.
And it's wild that like a character I would say fairly confidently most people do not know.
Hold on a
No.
second. No, no, hold on. Maybe this is my age shown, but he was a big part of the original Marvel like
I
expanded universe in
Yeah, he was a big part,
in
but
the
he's no
animated
like
series.
I'm not
Mysterio,
talking.
though. He doesn't like have an iconic like thing.
That's
that
it.
He
I'm
people
does.
not
outside
talking-
Kraven's
Spider-Man
Last
know.
Hunt. It's a
I
big
know,
No,
but
no,
part.
here's
again,
the thing.
that's
No, no,
very
no.
like in
Yeah.
the Spider-Man. Sorry, Kev.
But that's the thing. I'm not talking about like comic fans. I'm
Okay.
talking about just like general populace people.
Right. Right.
Like I don't read comics. Who the hell is Kraven the Hunter and what is his deal?
You know what? That's a
So-
fair point. That's a fair point. I'll give you that one. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Uh,
people would know who like Carnage is and Venom is, even if they never read a Spider-Man comic. Like, you know.
But I think that's
Yeah,
wild because
exactly.
like I know who Kraven is, but then again, I do read comics and I watched the animated series as a kid.
But you are right, Dara. He was part of that initial like wave.
Big push.
Like,
Yeah, he
he
was a
in the
big
original
character.
Sinister Six, and
Yeah.
Kraven's Last Hunt was one of those big like 80s like famous things. But
Yeah,
unless
it
you're
was
like
one of the
in
big
it,
issues. Yeah.
you won't know about it. Like,
Yeah,
you know.
that's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
But like, so it's so funny that a character that again for most people, for most just general audiences, wouldn't know now have two things that came out relatively close to each other
Hmm.
Mm.
to have that direct comparison. And I think from like what you're describing to me, the movie just comes out on bottom because Raven's really good in that game.
Yeah, here's the thing. He's really good in the movie as well. Like the action is really well shot. It's very violent for a 16 movie. I will be honest. There's a lot of blood in it.
Oh, it's
Um,
16. Is that?
yeah. The character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of blood in it. The action is really well shot. There's some good action sequences. Like as far as the way it's shot is really good. It's not just a standard, handheld shaky cam. It's like no, actually, the stunt work is very, very good. It's very well put together. The actual costume is quite good, and the locations. A lot of it's shot in London. And you're like, okay, cool. It actually feels really grounded, but also fantastical at the same time. And the
Dara,
sad part,
did part of this movie take place in the British Museum?
I wish they did drive past it, and I was like, no. And I would have got.
DiCaprio meme just points at the screen.
But here's the thing. The sad part about this, really, Kev, I think you actually hit it there. Like, and you can like, nobody knows who this guy is, right? So trying to get someone in the door to see a movie about Kraven the Hunter, that's a tall ask. What would have better
With
is to be like,
no
hey,
connection to Spider-Man. With
No, and
no
most-
link to him.
most people wouldn't even know that he's a Spider-Man villain. You know? So
Say that, but like Thor was someone no one really cared about
yeah, but
years ago,
See, the
and
thing with it is-
they still managed that. Like, you
yeah,
know?
but that was all riding on the MCU thing, and there was set up and all that kind of stuff. This was completely random.
Okay.
Completely random. There's nothing even close to Spider. The only connection to Spider-Man in this, other than the fact there's some of his Rose Gallery, is that even in London, they show a random, like, they're all reading the Daily Bugle.
What?
Yeah. You're like,
Why?
because it's Spider-Man's newspaper, but they're in
Daily
London.
Bugle isn't even in like the top 5 papers in New York in the
Exactly.
Spider-Man universe.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I was like, they don't even know what they're doing here. This is grasping at straws. And I think the sad part and the last word really on should you go see Craven or why Craven's going to fail is because there's no reason to see it. It's not funny.
It's the last of these, isn't it?
It
Like,
is. Yeah, it's not
Which
funny. It's not so bad it's good. It's not so good you need to watch it again. And
yeah.
here's the thing. The real killer is there's no post-credit sequence. There's no mid-credit sequence. That is it. It is Dunzo.
Oh, I
Finished.
would have loved to have known what was next. Like, you know.
which well no what there we did get a glimpse of what was next. There was supposed to be a grand crossover
Yeah.
of the Sony movies.
And the
So
Marvel. And the Marvel movie. So it's supposed to be Sinister Six versus the Avengers was supposed to be on the table at one point. If
Oh,
you
I
believe
don't believe that for a
I
second.
if you
don't. I
believe
think that's. I don't think that was gonna ever
I
happen.
mean,
No,
look,
no, I
it's
don't believe it
cancelled
either.
now. They could say anything they want.
You see, that was the thing. I don't believe that either, but I did hear that today, and I'm like, oh, that sounds a bit weird. But it could have been on the table at some point, but you just don't know. Like again, this comes from the same
No.
sources that were like, yeah, Venom is totally in the MCU when it
Oh,
was totally
yeah,
not, you
yeah.
know. So I think
No,
Sony had
no,
a vision, and this
Yeah.
vision was completely detached from reality.
Yeah,
No,
my dad works at Nintendo, and he can get me a secret Mew for Pokemon Blue.
no. I think we do need to pour one out for not getting Madam Web in a crossover movie. It's sad
Give
time.
it like 15 years. Maybe let it get nostalgic, and maybe then it wouldn't surprise me, but not immediately. Like,
Here's what I would say is right. I'm kind of going forward, and the only real kind of path forward for any of these characters, take them out and actually let them do stuff in the MCU. Like even on a TV show, you know, you have your Sony Spider-Verse TV show where they're like, right, we have a random, what's Madam Web doing? And then just have her doing like Madam Web things where her little gaggle of
they could barely
Spider
get
Women.
Dakota Johnson to show up for a movie.
No, what I'm saying is they don't even need to have her. They can just have her as a
Right.
voiceover. Like,
Okay.
I mean, there's not really much to say. Madam Web, believe it or not, folks, in the comics, Madam Web doesn't do a whole lot. She sits in that chair and that's about it. So you can have her voiceover and you have the other three Spider Women actually doing Spider Women things.
Okay, yeah.
You know, you could be like, and today we go to this Spider Woman at this part of the universe. It's just about creativity, and I think the problem with Sony's little experiment here is they just threw everything at the wall, but not in a creative way. They're like, we
Yeah.
need to pump out content. What have we got? Right, go shoot it.
But they don't even have like a streaming service or anything.
They do. It's terrible. It's on the. You can get it for free if you have the PSN. It's not good.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
It's really not good.
God,
Have you looked at
forgot
it?
about that.
Yeah,
No,
I always forget
but
about it until I log in. I'm like, oh yeah, there's nothing on this.
I think no, the one thing it has is that David Harbour Gran Turismo movie.
Oh, yeah, that's also a bad movie. Yeah, that's not good.
So can I ask a Marvel related question then? Does this mean that the Vulture is just stranded in a universe that now doesn't exist?
No, I think they're going to reset a lot of this, you know, because a lot of this is going into Secret Wars now, so the status quo can be shook up.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
see
I mean, like
Deadpool
that's
movie bringing these characters back in like 20 years or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that's. I mean, even just look at like the past kind of like 5 or 6 years of like the MCU's kind of hit track record. They're not of like between the alternate history and Multiverse of Madness with Charles Xavier and the the what was the speedster's name in WandaVision?
Quicksilver,
Quicksilver, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, what was it? What was the guy's name?
Evan Peters,
It was- Yeah, no, like what was his name? It was a fart joke or something.
Oh no,
Ralph something.
Ralph Boner.
That was it.
Ralph Boner.
That was it, yeah. You know, look,
Salute to Ralph Boner. But like that's what I'm saying. Is, like they're not afraid of like bringing in kind of extra canon stuff when
Yeah.
it suits them. So
I
any
think
of
Marvel's
these guys-
steering the ship the right way now. I'm hyped for like the what's it called? Their kind of version of the Suicide Squad and the new Captain America thing. I think they're making the right moves now.
yeah, that's the thing. Like Marvel, a lot of this. Like, look, there's lots of different elements you could go with this. You could be like the MCU, you could be the wokeness, you could be they have no idea what they're doing. You could have, you know, blah blah blah. I think it's a combination of a lot of these things. And it more comes down to they lost their center, right? They had all these stories. They're like, right, we're gonna plan this out. And then they kind of were like, right, in my personal opinion, they were like, look, we're too big to fail here. Anything we pump out is gonna work. And whether those other political things could be in play, I don't know. Could be not. Doesn't really matter. But the point is, they didn't have a center, right? The multiverse has never been a center. It's a cool ploy and it's a cool way to get stuff in and to experiment. But unless you have an actual core, it's not going to go anywhere. And you're going to have a wipe. This has happened over and over again. Most famously, Crisis on Infinite Earths. That's why this happened. Now in DC, because it was such a mess, they had to clear it all up. Marvel never did that. Marvel were always like, here's our continuity. We have the multiverse, we have other things, but that's not really part of what we're doing. Unfortunately, the MCU did not learn that. And now they're going through what DC Comics went through in the 90s. So they have to kind of figure out, right, where's Fox? Well, we know that's gone thanks to Deadpool. Sony had to be straightened out. They're like, right, we can take stuff out of it. We can also rewipe it if we want it. The main thing is we have Spider-Man, Spider-Gwen, and Miles Morales. They're all going to be in the MCU very soon, mark my words.
I
But
mean,
but
maybe, but
hold
like,
on. But the main thing I'm saying here is what we have got is in a very real way is a realignment into here's our story. Now, unfortunately, that involves bringing back Robert Downey Jr. and also Chris Evans, which is a weird move, but I think that's your sign that they're like, right, we need to actually tell a story. And from what I've seen with Captain America 3, that actually looks really good too. So I think now as MCU fans or whatever, we might actually be watching something that isn't terrible very
yeah.
soon.
Well, I hope there isn't a wipe because the MCU like
Realignment rather than a wipe.
realignment. Okay, maybe realignment because it's at its strongest when there's like a continuity and between projects. Like I'm
Yeah,
excited for these
for sure.
upcoming ones because I want to see where the Falcon has come and gone
Yeah,
since, becoming Captain America. I want to see all the characters in the Thunderbolts because they're
yeah,
coming
Thunderbolts
in
looks
from
great
different
too.
angles and stuff. I
Yeah,
think people really latched on to the fact that there's a big hand coming out of the sea
that
in
they've
the
never
Eternals.
mentioned again.
And I
That they've
think the
never
reason
mentioned
they're
again.
really, really irritated by that is because once upon a time, like a city getting destroyed in the Marvel universe would have big ramifications
Hmm.
on the next two or three things. And you
That
had,
would have been the next movie,
yeah,
but it's been like
exactly.
6 years.
Yeah.
Actually,
And
do
now
you,
there's been a couple of like Marvel things like that, especially with the Disney Plus shows added in,
do you know
where
what Craven
it
feels
feels
like
like
as well?
things
Sorry.
are happening. Like people are still recovering from the blip.
But
And it
here's the
doesn't
thing.
feel like things are impacting each other anymore. It destroys the sort of, I mean, obviously Marvel, it's all like we'll make a movie and then we'll find a way to tie it in. We know that kind of in the back of our brains.
Hmm.
But it does feel like things aren't impacting each other anymore, which is if that's basically Marvel's winning ingredient when you boil it down,
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. They have really lost their way. Like, Kev, I think you said there, like that would have been the next movie. Like that
Hmm.
big Eternal hand or Titan hand would have been the next movie. How do we deal with this? Like after the battle in New York, three or four things were directly put in place because they were cleaning it up,
Hmm.
and the Vulture showed up because he got kicked off it, and Damage went in and fixed it up. Like it's
Yeah, Civil War is about the collective stuff from Sokovia
exactly, yeah.
and like all that kind of stuff. Ant-Man came from shady stuff. Hydra caused this caused that. Like, I'm not saying everything has to be connected to each other, but it
But
does feel like there has
there's
to
no
be a connective
causality.
issue. Like,
There hasn't been causality in the MCU in a very long time. And I
mm,
think that's what I'm saying. Like people have wrongly attributed malice towards just we're too big to fail. We don't
yeah.
really need to try here. And
A giant crocodile smashed a pyramid. No one said anything.
they look,
Remember that?
the British Museum somehow got a gift shop that isn't there. Remember that?
A giant big eyeball trashed the middle of New York. And I know New Yorkers are quite blasé in the MCU, but like, oh, I guess
But
everyone's too busy dealing with post Thanos stuff. But
it's
it's
funny that you mentioned uh the Eternals because that's pretty much the vibe of Kraven.
right,
Movie that didn't need to be made. Well, actually was pretty decent. I like the Eternals, but didn't mean anything
right.
and will be forgotten forever. So there we go.
Well then, speaking of things that might be forgotten for forever, who wants to talk about the War of the Rohirrim?
Oh God, Kev, go for
Kev's getting a sandwich.
it. So- all right, okay. So look, I'll
All
start us
right, all
off
right. I'll
with.
tell you what. I'll do Skeleton Key while he goes and finds his head.
Yeah, go on.
Uh,
I want Kev's take on this as well because I think we're on the same page. Right, go on.
yeah. Well, I'm not going to
I
say.
genuinely thought I had more time to get water after you guys were ranting about Marvel.
Ah, you're wrong.
Okay.
You're wrong. How much time do we have on the clock, by the way?
20 minutes.
Grand.
Okay,
That time. Okay,
okay.
go on. Tell us,
Go,
tell
Kev,
us
go.
about the horse people.
So here's the thing, actually. The thing is that it's actually pretty concise because most everything Dara had just said about Kraven kind of also applies to Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim.
I'll tell you what, Dara, can we just stop there? Do you want to like edit the last 10 minutes of talking and then just play it again and
Just
we'll
play it back.
I mean,
No,
maybe
'cause
it's
that's-
nearly Christmas. Let's wing it.
Yeah, no, but like it kind of genuinely is like 'cause I saw this. It's this new animated kind of like not prequel, but like his movie set kind of in a precursor history to Lord of the Rings.
The
Like,
second
Okay,
age, I
like
think
the
is when it
the
is.
second age,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
And it's basically about kind of the horse lords of Rohan and the infamous War of the Rohirrim, which, if I'm being honest, I hadn't heard about before this.
Is it infamous? I've
I
read the
don't-
books. I don't
I
know.
don't think so.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot
Uh,
of stuff in Tolkien. It could have been in there in the
The main character that they create isn't in Tolkien. They made her up.
Okay, right. Because is it a rights thing? Like,
No. They just
No,
made it up. They
yeah,
just made
no.
it up. Yeah.
So the thing is this is a movie that, from what I can tell, was made solely so that Warner Brothers could still kind of hold on to the copyright of the Lord of the Rings. Like,
oh, is it a fan force stick situation?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
kind of. Not quite as bad. I would again. It's not a bad movie. It's serviceable, but it kind of achieves nothing. And I like it because it didn't need to expand on the universe of like Tolkien or Lord of the Rings. It didn't need to be a precursor to Peter Jackson's films. But even like as a story on its own, it is a very play by numbers, like warring factions, like medieval fantasy movie.
Right.
But they also tie it up so well that the main character, in the way they set her up, ensures that she dies out and never leaves a lineage.
Yeah,
So she literally
leaves no impact.
she leaves no impact. I know obviously she's a great warrior, blah blah blah. But as far as like in the whole world of Tolkien where it's like lineage and your line goes down, she's finished. Like the whole line is dead. Her
Yeah.
brothers, her dad, everything. That's it. So
The Crown of Rohan went to a cousin of hers. And that's
So
it.
is it like a Rogue One situation? Like,
Not even
No,
that.
not even
It's
that, no.
Just like it is. If this movie wasn't set in Middle Earth, nothing about it would change.
yeah. Like
Mhm.
it's when you're watching it, like look, don't get me wrong, right? It's not bad. It feels like Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War, where it's its own kind of thing, and you're like, okay, it doesn't really have that much of an impact, but consequently, because it has no impact, and as I said, like they literally end it and make it very clear that she rides off into the sunset and was never heard from again, and you're like,
Yeah.
so
then
that's
what-
how
the
that
thing-
happened.
then what
that
was the
thing
yeah,
I've
then
never
what
heard of.
then what was the point? And they start off the movie
Yeah.
they start off the movie by saying, and her name was known by nobody, and you're like, then what the hell?
Here's the
watching?
thing: is I don't because again, I like the Tolkien mythology. I find I'm not like a scholar on it, but I know like the broad strokes of the kind of the lead up in the history to like the War of the Ring. So this being not on my radar, fine. I didn't
Yeah.
need this to be like a monumental occasion in Tolkien's history.
No.
What I am disappointed in though is that I wanted this to be a big budget animated movie with that sort of like spectacle, and it doesn't deliver on that. There is no reason for this movie to have been released in theaters.
That's very true. That
Actually,
is
I
damning,
think,
actually, yeah.
and I think actually does the movie itself a disservice because the animation it's fine. Like animation's hard, I get that. But when you blow it up, when you blow the quality of the animation in this movie up onto a big screen, the faults in it become glaring.
Well, what's wrong with it? Like
It's just like it's stilted at times. Like, unless a character is right in the foreground, the off-model situation becomes pretty apparent. And like outside of kind of like big action scenes, it kind of does feel a bit unfinished. And the action scenes aren't big and flashy like a lot of, I've seen a few anime movies in cinemas, and like, when you get a true Sakuga animation movie moment, seeing it in the big screen is really special. This movie has none of that.
No.
And I am drawing the comparison because this is a collaboration with Japanese animation studios.
Oh,
No,
really?
it is. It's that they market it as such. That this isn't like a Western anime. This is supposed to be a collaboration.
Yeah, I don't think it's a collaboration with any particular like animation studio, or at least not one that they're like advertising. But Warner Brothers Animation worked in collaboration with Japanese animators, and like it has an anime aesthetic. But in comparison to even those peers, it just falls flat. Like, it again, not bad. It has a standard of TV animation.
That's exactly
to, like,
what I was saying.
Movie animation. Yeah.
And look, the thing about it is that's okay. Like, I would go and see random collection of anime cold. It's part of an on-running series you do here, and that never looked cheap.
Yeah.
This just looks kind of cheap, but the real galling part of it, and the only bit that there's one or two really cool parts in it. I will admit, and I didn't feel like I wasted my time or money going to see it. I was annoyed to go see it in 40X because I hate seeing stuff in 40X, but even that wasn't too bad. The only bit there's two bits at the end that really just jarred me. One, when they wrap up and saying, "Well, she went off into the sunset and we never heard from her again, and our line ended." Blah blah.
I
blah.
have to go now. My planet needs me.
And you're like, okay, so we never heard from you again. So what was the point? But the other one was and Kev, I think you brought this up before we recorded, so I'm going to yield the floor to you. Can you let everyone know how this movie ends?
Spoilers.
There's no spoilers. There's no spoilers.
It's no spoilers because they literally, again, in an effort to try and tie this all back to the franchise, the reason people went to see this movie, the franchise people like, it's that the main character doesn't quite look at the camera, but almost looks at the camera and says, I've gotten a letter from a friend, a wizard out in the reaches, to ask about, to investigate on why the orcs are looking for all these rings. And his name is Gandalf.
Isn't that how The Hobbit ends? They're like, Legolas is like, go find this man Aragorn who lives in lands. It's like, well, can we not infer that thing?
No, because then you won't know directly that this is related to Lord of the Rings.
But like, who cares? We've already seen it. It's not like it's going to tempt me to come see the next one or something.
No, Dara said before recording, and I think it should have been it. As far like it would have been a punchline, but it would have been perfect. Is if they instead of Gandalf said Radagast. Yeah,
I wished he had have said that, because at least it would have been like a deep cut, and the fans would have been like, "Oh, this is great."
It would have been a punchline. I would have.
Go find those two blue wizards that people constantly reference, but we never actually see.
You see,
but no, like it. Go on. But no, again, it's not awful. It is a fun movie. There's a really old, because again, they have the entire back end of this movie is just a protracted recreation of the Helm's Deep battle.
Okay.
And we find out why it's called Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then it's all worth it.
Because her dad is a professional wrestler who just beats people up in the snow. That's great, though.
To be fair, that is real good.
That's real great.
That's a cool part. It really is. But like, see, the thing of it is, it's like, actually, Kev, I have a question for you. Would you have rather this been like a live action TV show? Or do you think this was the only real way to make it?
Can I get in on this?
Yeah, okay, go on. We'll open it up. Go on.
I feel like there's a huge missed opportunity here, because like Star Wars Visions had like 6 or 7 like Japanese studios in its first season, and then international studios. The Boys did a similar thing. Like, what a missed opportunity to have like 7 or 8 Japanese studios all telling like a 10-minute Tolkien story, because that's a universe that desperately needs expanding and diving into, like, you know?
Oh yeah, no, that'd be incredible. Having a bunch of like different, kind of just like international studios, Asian, African, Irish animation studios, taking those again, like those, because there's so many Tolkien short stories. So animating them, it would be great. No, this, I think in its form, it's fine. I don't think again, live action wouldn't have benefited and probably would have taken away, because you wouldn't have a king quite built like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, but the villain in The Hobbit is basically an animated character, and he's in a live-action movie, theoretically.
That's fair. But no, I think, again, there was no reason for this to be like a holiday cinema release.
No, I actually
didn't
expect it to be a cinema release. I assumed it'd be straight to Amazon Prime.
I think the reason they released this and Kraven at the same time is so it would get buried. Honestly.
Well, why not bury them?
Well, they did. I mean, I was in the cinema for this and for Kraven, and it was not even 20% full.
Okay.
Nobody went to go see these movies.
I think this thing, like, Lord of the Rings is still like a popular brand. I think this thing will draw enough of the crowd to probably make its budget back, and that's it. Because I said it at the top, this movie, because again, it feels cheap and probably was pretty cheap. I don't have a budget in front of me, but I suspect that like this movie was made so Warner Brothers could keep that copyright going.
Absolutely had to. There's no other reason why, and they're probably like, right, we're not going to use our good material. What else have we got? What's cheap? Rohirrim.
Yeah,
there we go. People know Helm's Deep.
People know how horses work. That'll do.
And listen, let me tell you, they got their use out of the Rohan stinger from Howard Shore's score.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Over and over and over again. You're like, we get it. We know it's Rohan. Come on. Also, did you guys find it, or I suppose, Keen, you didn't see it, but Kev, did you find it weird that like they keep burning Rohan down? And it's like, you know what? This seems to happen an awful lot. You keep getting raided by these wild men. Maybe use something other than wood. I
can't believe it's come to this. Moving Rohan 5 miles down the road. It's crazy.
Listen, I mean, there's bits in this animation that is literally the same thing from Lord of the Rings, and you're like, it within living memory for some people, because people live a lot longer in this universe. Did you not be like, yeah, maybe we should, you know, we use different building material, and also the fact that they use Mumakil, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, I like Mumakil, but did Sauron like not think of that later on when he's like, hey, we could use those Easterlings? Worked before. It's like, you just forget about it 200 years later.
Just throw like 3 elephants. That's all it takes for Rohan.
That's all it takes to make Rohan fall. Yeah, it's
the eye of Sauron, not the cop on of Sauron. Like,
yeah, but you think so? You know what this is? This opens up the same problem as in The Last Jedi, when they use the hyperdrive to make the ship a missile.
And
basically.
then you have to explain why
nobody ever did it before.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like one of the big red flashing moments for me. I was like, wait, Sauron didn't think all it took was like 2 Mumakil actually, because they kill one. And it's like, okay, well, you would have Rohan in an afternoon. That's all it took.
Yeah, I know, but then you run into like the Eagles debate. It's like, well, the Mumakil aren't like things you can pick up at Spar. Maybe they're hard to find or something. Like,
they had a rake in them. They had like 4 or 5 of them.
I haven't seen it. I don't know.
No, sorry. In the animation, they have like 3 or 4 of them.
Oh, okay, right.
And they're plentiful, you know. And in the Lord of the Rings, we see a bunch of them. Like even in the second one, it's just it opens up these questions where I'm like, okay, come on. Like,
right.
Yeah,
I give Lord of the Rings a pass because it's more in the sort of fable, fairy tale realm of storytelling. But I do get what you mean. Like,
it's again, there's no reason for this to. This is like the Lord of the Rings franchise. When anyone seems to handle it, it's like a scab. They can't stop. They can't just leave it be. They keep opening it up, and 9 times pretty much without fail, with the exception of I'm convinced Peter Jackson's trilogy was a fluke, right? And what I mean is, every other time they've tried with Tolkien, it spectacularly failed. Any of the animated stuff from the 90s, The Hobbit, that train wreck on Amazon, and now this. Maybe guys, Peter Jackson just got lucky.
I don't think he got lucky, but I do think it's more a case of like a lightning in a bottle thing of
Yeah.
I mean, you're basically citing Red Letter Media, except they talk about the original Star Wars trilogy.
Oh, am I?
And it's like,
Fair
yeah,
enough.
they literally said that about the original trilogy. And it's like
Yeah,
just
I can see
some
that. But
things
I like the prequels.
can't be expanded. Like, like Back to the Future or whatever you have,
Look,
Not
see,
to
you
diminish
can.
the original thing, but it just means that like there can't be more made of it,
No, you can. I mean, like the thing about it is, you really can, but it has to be done with a pure heart. Like, I think the reason why we still watch Peter Jackson's trilogy is because he gave himself to that, and everyone there was like, "We're actually going to make a thing for the love of it." The original Star Wars is the same. I would argue the prequels, particularly since the third one is probably the second best Star Wars movie. I think it's unfair to throw
Well,
that
the
in there.
prequels are sincere, but that
They are
doesn't
sincere,
necessarily
yeah.
mean that they're well thought out.
No, but they're still sincere. They're still like heart and core to them. And I think when you remove that from movie making, the badness, for want of a better word,
Hmm.
seeps in, and that's why this animation feels so pointless.
Yeah,
It feels
passion
so
can't be
hollow.
artificially constructed.
Yeah, it's like, okay, again, and Kev said they jingle the keys of that Rohan stinger continuously to be like, hey, look, jingle, jingle, hey, look, you're like, I know where we are. I've seen the films more times than
Yeah.
than I can count. And that's the big thing here with this. It's just so disingenuous.
Hmm. How much time do we have left?
2 minutes. Kian, what skeleton crew?
This thing. Okay. Well, in the 2 minutes we have left, I want to point out that neither of you have said the plots, really, of Kraven or the Rohirrim. So I'm going to put a challenge to each of you. Dara, you have 1 minute to sum up the premise or plot of Kraven. Go.
Man becomes a hunter, tries to hunt evil people, ends up killing his dad.
Cool. Kev, Rohirrim, go.
War of Succession turns a man into Middle Earth's first incel.
Lovely. Dara, Toy Show, go.
Worst thing ever. Wish I didn't have to pay for it with my taxes.
Lovely. Kev, Hot Snowman Thing, go.
Greatest love story of all time.
Lovely. Bring us out, Kev.
Well, thank you all for listening. One
There's
of these
your
days,
short
I'm
for
sure
YouTube,
Cian will-
Dara.
What?
There's your short you can cut out for YouTube, Dara.
Fantastic.
Thank
Please
you
subscribe
all.
to our YouTube, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Please subscribe to our YouTube. Check out our shorts. Dara's been doing a lot of work on them. They've been doing great. Maybe if you just keep an eye on them, one of these days, Cian will get to talk about Star Wars Skeleton Crew. But that is not.
I have a
this
long
weekend.
list of things we say we're going to talk about, particularly me, that end up not getting talk about. One of these days, that bill is going to come due. And you're not gonna have a good time.
To be
Oh,
fair,
I know.
when I'm not on the show, you guys talk about Star Trek an awful lot. So
That's true. That's true.
to be
It's
fair,
all we know. It's all we know. But no, you can check us out on our YouTube channel, of course, along with the entire back catalogue of our episodes. If you want to hear me and Cian talk about Star Trek for probably 10 hours plus, that is all there on our YouTube channel. You subscribe there. You can find, of course, all of our shows and all of our social medias on our website at nerd2knowmedia.com. There, of course, as well, you can find our Patreon. We would always appreciate it if you would support us there. And until next time, I've been Kev.
Arvindar.
And I've been Ian.
And this has been Nerd to Know Basis. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right, so you're listening to the podcast. You're like, hey, I'm not in Ireland. How do I get in touch? Well, tune in has you covered. That's how you can check us out live when we're on the radio. You go to tune in and download the app, or you can check out the live streams on nerdtoknowmedia.com or Phoenix 92.5 FM. If you want to get in contact with us, it's very easy. Nerd to Know Media everywhere. Nerd to Know Media on Twitter, Nerd to Know Media Instagram, Nerd to Know Media on Twitch, Nerd to Know Media at gmail.com if you want to reach out via email. Hope to hear from you soon. Check out the Wrestling Rewind here on Phoenix 92.5 FM every Tuesday at 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And of course over on nerdtoknowmedia.com, the only wrestling podcast by wrestling fans who don't hate wrestling. We'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.